Hi guys, welcome to the video. This one is on a script that I've put together to convert the RGS packs that we normally have for RetroBat and Batocera, and to convert them so you can use them on ESDE. If you don't know ESDE, I'll just show you quickly in a minute, but it's basically another front end which is based on EmulationStation. Roughly, it's kind of changed over time, and you can take our packs that are designed for RetroBat and Batocera and use them on there. However, they do need some tweaking, some changing. Like I say, because it's changed over time. Some of the naming conventions different. The layout of where it stores media files, etc., and game lists is different than EmulationStation. So yeah, I decided to put together a script, basically out of personal need, because I use ESDE on my Android devices. So I've got it on my phone and also on my NVIDIA Shield. So it runs really well on there, but obviously I want to use the RGS packs. There's no point starting new packs, so I wanted to create a script to put it over, and I spent so much time doing it, and it's got quite big, and it works really well, to be fair. That I thought, it's worth sharing. So without further ado, just a quick intro. So ESDE, like I say, it's based on EmulationStation, but it's kind of, I guess, a bit different. They kind of change things over time. Some of the naming conventions are different, like I say, but it's a free download. You can see it looks quite familiar, like EmulationStation, but I guess a little bit simplified, maybe, if that's fair. And you can download it for Android, like I say, I'm using it on for Windows, for Mac, for Linux, etc. So you can get it on all the different platforms. And again, it's got theming, but again, the theming engine is slightly different than EmulationStation, so you can't just take a theme from one and use it on here and expect it to work. Some might do, some simple ones may do, but from what I found, they're not. The theme engines are slightly different. So yeah, anyway, here's, if you want to look more about ESDE, have a look on here. But like I say, I'm using it purely on my phone and my other Android device, my NVIDIA Shield. For everything else on PC, obviously I stick with RetroBat or Batocera. And just a quick one, I found this, which is quite interesting. Also, I'll put the link for all these in the description. But it shows a quick history of EmulationStation. So you see where you come from. You can see where ESDE fits in. So we've got the original EmulationStation released here in 2012, and then there's various forks. So people not familiar with code, if you've got an open source project in a repository like GitHub, like code repository, people can take a fork, so basically a copy of that code, and then kind of create it as another project and then start altering it and keep it completely separate. So like I say, Recalbox was born out of here, and then obviously the RetroPie. It's quite a well-known one for people using the Raspberry Pis when they came out. I think it's still going strong. That again was a fork from the original EmulationStation. And then there's a few versions coming down. I think this one's now archived, no longer active. Then you see towards the bottom here, that's where Batocera was born. And then ESDE you see is a fork from RetroPie, and it's come down here. So it is separate to Batocera, and obviously RetroBat. People may not have known this, but it's actually a fork of Batocera itself. So if you look inside RetroBat, you might occasionally, in config files, etc., you might see references to Batocera, and this is kind of why. And obviously there's other forks that have come off here, as you can see there. So yeah, that's where ESDE comes in, and this is why it's slightly different from EmulationStation, like the naming conventions and those kind of things are a bit different. It's just because it's a separate project, so they've done things slightly differently. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get onto the script. So I've uploaded it onto our GitHub. We've got this media and tools repository. We're collecting some bits and pieces. So it's inside scripts, and it's here. So Pixel Nostalgia, ROMpacks to ESDE. So in here you've got the actual main script, and then it's got a couple of PowerShell scripts to go with it that do remove duplication. And then there's a copy of FFmpeg, which obviously you can get direct from the site, but this is the version I've been testing with, and it uses this one to do some conversion of videos and images, etc., into a suitable format. So yeah, here's the tool. So what I'll do is, again, all the links are in the description. So here's the actual script. So obviously I'll show you it running in a second, but just a quick run through of what it does. So and I'll show all the differences as well. So it basically takes, you drop it into one of the existing RGS ROMpacks, just in the root of the ROM pack, and again I will show all this, and then you run it, and what it does first time, it just creates a subfolder in that ROM pack called ESDE, and then copies all the artwork in, but you can see some of the names are slightly different. So thumbnails becomes 3D boxes, the 2D box art becomes covers, fan arts becomes fan art, marquees is the same, images become screenshots, titles, etc, etc, cartridges, physical media. So you can see the naming convention is slightly different on the other side. So you could kind of do it manually, copy your media across, then rename all the folders, but I thought it easier to do it in a script. And then, like I say, it kind of just expanded from there. So the game lists, inside the game list is a slightly different format. It doesn't have all the artwork listed inside the XML, but we don't need to change it because ESD will just ignore it, and it doesn't need to use it, which is fine, which is good. Otherwise that would have created a whole bunch of headaches. But it does store the game list separately. So as you know, on the Batocera and RetroBat side, the ROMs, the game list, XML, and the media are all contained in that ROM folder. With ESD, they're split out, so all the media is in this separate downloaded media folder. The game list is in a separate folder called game lists, and then the ROMs are in a separate location as well. Again, which is another reason for using this script to split it all out. So it'll go through, it'll copy that stuff across, it'll copy the game list across, and then the fan art. So I have to do conversion on those because I noticed that if you've got a fan art that's in PNG format, ESD wouldn't read it. So basically this goes through and converts all the fan art images from PNG to JPEG so that they can be used. And then when you run, again you'll see this, you'll get an option of whether you want to do various bits and pieces. So because the ROMs are separate, it says do you want to copy these as well, and it defaults to yes after a 60-second timeout. I've set this to yes, but you can set it to no if you want to. Just in case you've copied the ROMs already or you've copied them manually, you can tell the script not to do that. And then it's going to copy them all across. The only caveat is when it does the copy across, it'll copy everything from the ROMs folder. So it's okay for most systems that have all their ROMs in the root of the ROMs folder. If you've got some systems that have games in subfolders, you'd have to copy those across manually, because the script somebody doesn't. I can't tell it. You don't know which systems have subfolders, which ones don't, and what they'll be called. And also there's a subfolder called media as well, so you don't want to get all mixed up. But again, I'll explain that in a bit more detail when we go through it. So it does all that. Then it comes down and gives you the option to resize the video snaps. So if you just run this on Windows, you might not need to, but for me running on Android, I found this I highly recommend doing this, because some of the videos in the packs can be quite big, quite high resolution, and quite chunky in size. And even my NVIDIA Shield, which is, I know it's a few years old now, but it's still considered sort of one of the high-end Android devices. It struggles. If you've got the video snaps are too big, it makes scrolling through the game list a bit slow. So I'd highly recommend this. It crops them down to 15 seconds from normally the video snaps about 30 seconds. This crops them down to 15 and reduces the resolution as well. So you get the option. The default is no, but if it'll prompt you on screen. You can say yes, or you can change this. So /D is default, and basically what the default answer is. You could change this to yes if you want to. If you want to just walk away and leave the script to run by itself, you could change this to whatever you want. So if it does that, it uses again FFmpeg to re-encode them to 15 seconds long, puts a nice audio and video sort of fade to black. Also it fades in from black and it fades out to black at the end, just to give a a nicer effect. And if you don't pick that, it does a straight copy. And then this is where the two PowerShell scripts come in. So I did find in some of the older packs there's some duplication. There's some JPEG and PNG versions of the same images. So this just goes through and removes that duplication to save some space, make it all more efficient. And then you get the last option is whether you want to reduce the artwork size. And again, I'd highly recommend this on the Android device, because some of the images are quite large. And again, scrolling through a big game list on the Shield, it can kind of stutter and struggle a bit. Whereas if you do this conversion, it will just kind of reduce the size of them a bit and scale them down. Obviously, still keep the really good resolution, and they look fine on my 54, 56 inch TV, whatever it is. So they look fine, but this just kind of shrinks them down, so they're all kind of standard format, and the Shield then scrolls through nice and smooth. So if you say yes to this, it'll go through and just convert the covers, screenshots, title shots with FFmpeg again, just scaling them down like I said. And then it looks quite complex, but it's basically because you can't convert an image and then write it back to itself, if that makes sense. So you have to kind of convert it into a temporary folder, and then once that's done, then you basically delete the original folder and then rename that, so it kind of does a swap over. But anyway, so that's the script, and when it's done, you'll get a little message saying all done. So like I say, from what started off as just kind of like doing a file copy from source to destination and doing a rename, kind of evolved into optimizing the media and some deduplication and all the other bits. So yes, this is where we are now. So let's run it rather than talking about it. Let's have a quick demo. So like I say, it's on the GitHub to download. If you haven't really used GitHub before, like I say, browse where I mentioned before, and you want to grab these 4 files. And I find it easier to you can click on here. If you can see the same thing. You've got a little download raw file, which basically just download it as it is. So this is CMD. Just save that somewhere useful, and do that for all four files. Yeah, it works the exe, but it can't show it because it's an executable. But you still got the download, and then click download. It says, and stick it somewhere useful. But basically, yeah, download the 4 files. So I've got those stored safely somewhere. So here, and the reason I've put an underscore at the beginning is just that once you finish and you want to remove them, it's easy to find them. If you sort by name, they appear at the top of the list in your ROMs folder. So what you'd normally do is, so here's my RetroBat installation. Here's all the under RetroBat and then ROMs. Here's all the ROMs folders that I have, all the various systems. And so I'd pick one to convert. So let's go for CPS1. So Capcom Play System. So this is the original, all the zips in here, and this is what I'm talking about. This is majority of systems, all the ROMs are just single files in the root of the folder. And what the script will do is take all these and copy them into a new location. If you had some systems that had games in various subfolders, you'll just have to grab those and copy them yourself manually, because obviously it's far too complex to, in the script, try and work out which systems might have all their games in subfolders, etc. So, but for the majority of systems, it works fine. So all you would do is take these 4 files, and right-click copy, or you do Control-C on the keyboard, and then you would just paste them in here. But what I've got just for the example is a cut-down version, CPS1 folder, but just with less games, so it's quicker, basically. So just right-click here and paste, and see what I mean. If you sort by name, they will appear at the top. So once you're finished, you can just grab these and delete them, or move them back out, or do whatever you want. But yeah, you delete them and clean up at the end. So yeah, drop it in there, and then once it's in there, just double click the .cmd file, and it will spin up. Just rinse across, make it a bit bigger. So we'll start to do the copy. It's nice and quick. So would you like to copy the ROM folders across as well? Type ROM files. I'll say yes, it's copied those ones across. Would you like to reduce the resolution? I'll say yes, just so you can see it happening. So this is a bit that might take a bit of time depending on the size of your ROM collection. We've got 7 games in here, so 7 videos to convert. See, doesn't take too long, but this is where you'd probably, if you're doing a large collection, you just leave it and go and do something else, and just leave it chuntering away. So it's just going to do the videos. So that's finished. Now it's running 2 PowerShell scripts just to reduce, taking the duplication away. And then do I want to reduce the size of the artwork? I'm going to say yes. So this is going to use FFmpeg again, just to spin through and just resize all those images to a smaller size that's going to work a lot better on Android devices specifically. Like I say, this is kind of optional for me. Like I say, if you're using Android, definitely do it. And that's it done. So hit any key and you're finished. So what you'll end up with, if I just hit F5 to refresh in here, and like I say, now you're done with them, you can just highlight them and delete them. So, or if you can do another ROMpacks, just move them from there, cut them from there, paste them to somewhere else. So what it's done is it's created this folder for us here. So this is in the layout that ESDE is expecting. So like I say, all the media is in this folder here under another folder with the system name, and then there's all the 3D boxes. They're all in here. Covers. It's the 2D version. The videos in here as well. Also, they've all been redone for us. So all the media is in here, and then the game lists again is similar. Game list lives in here, and then all the ROMs we put in here. So you can see how it's different from RetroBat and Batocera. They kind of all split out. So I do have, actually if I bring it up separately, I do have ESDE. I do have that installed. Where did I put it? As a quick test. Just so you can see. So this is ESD for Windows. Obviously it's very similar on Android. So you can see when you install it, you get in the root, you get a ROMs folder. So this is where you would take the ROMs and drop them in here. So I've got a couple in here already, so you just copy that folder across. And they do have this ROMs all folder, which it creates for you. So this is all the systems that it supports. So 192 folders in there, and they're already there renamed for you. I think for these, all the ROM folders pretty much match what we have in RetroBat and Batocera, but we were just double checking in here. If for whatever reason you've copied a system across, it's not showing up in ESDE, just check that the folder name you've used is the same here. But like I said, a majority of them do match anyway. So yeah, the ROMs go in there, and then there's a subfolder called ESDE, and you'll see in here this is where the downloaded media folder is, and in there you've got all the systems. So CPS1 I've copied across already, so this matches what it's copied here, downloaded media. So if you've done a whole bunch of systems, they'll all appear in here, and you can just select the whole lot, copy those, come over to download media here, and right click paste, and it'll copy them across. And then similar with game lists. Go to game lists, CPS1 is here, and that's what we've got here. So you pretty much just, if you've done a whole bunch, like I say, you could just come here, you could grab these at this level and do copy, and then come over here and do paste. So I've got some pre-existing, so I'm just going to overwrite those, and that's going to pop those in there. That's probably the quickest way of doing it. And then, like I say, I've got ROMs here, let's just copy that and paste it there, overwrite, and that's it. So you pretty much just drop the script into your ROMs folder for whichever system you're doing, run it, let it finish. Obviously you can sit and watch it and choose yes or no to the various options, or you can go and just confirm that. You can go and change, like I briefly said earlier. So when it comes saying do you want to copy the ROMs, if you've walked away and left it, the default is going to be yes after a 6-second timeout. But if you don't do that and you're going to walk away, change that to an N. And then same down here, do you want to resize the videos? Set that to whatever you want if you're going to sort of do this unattended. And then the third option, so there's three points that ask you questions for input. Do you want to reduce the size of the artwork? Yes or no. Default is no, but change it to whatever you want. And then yeah, like I say, you can just drop it into whichever folder you want, let it run, and when you're done, copy it over, and that's it. So I'll just spin this up, make sure, just to show you for completion. So CPS1 is in here. So here's all the artwork we've copied over. And that's it, basically. Didn't mean to launch the game, but yeah, I haven't got RetroArch installed, so there's a bit more, I guess. With RetroBat and Batocera, all the emulators are included and they're pre-configured and it controls it all for you. With ESD, it's slightly different. You have to configure the emulator yourself. Obviously, the majority of systems use RetroArch, but you'd have to make sure that's installed and configured and got the right cores installed, etc. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Can't think of anything else, but yeah, hopefully you find it useful. Let us know, give some feedback. Also, it's on GitHub, all freely available as everything else. And also, I think if you're watching the video, you're probably already aware of the RGS builds and RGS packs that we provide as Team Pixel Nostalgia. Obviously, this is our official YouTube channel. We've got the main majority of people and discussions and everything goes on Discord. Obviously, links in the description. We just surpassed 9,000 users, which is amazing and still growing. So yeah, come and say hello. Come and ask any questions there. Obviously, you can drop comments on the video here, but it's much easier to come and drop it into Discord. We can have a two-way conversation then, much easier. And obviously, there's a whole team of us behind it. can answer various questions that you might have. Like I say, and everything's free. We always do it free. There's no charge at all for anything. It's all community driven. If someone has tried to sell you an RGS build or anything from Team Pixel Nostalgia, then obviously ask your money back. Let us know. Everything, yeah, completely free of charge. That's not how we don't charge for anything. That's not how we go. So anyway, thank you for watching. Probably rabbit on way too long like I normally do, but hopefully that was useful. And yeah, let us know, and I'll catch you on the next one.